Lois Rosenthal from Mountford and Family Therapy in Alexandria, Virginia, and I'm here to talk about how emotions can make or break a relationship. It's pretty obvious which ones can break a relationship, but how do you find the ones that make a relationship? Almost nothing is worse in your relationship than feeling either invisible or underappreciated. That just really hurts. And couples can experience this difficult disconnection in many different ways. And it seems the smallest thing can touch it off. It could be that your partner leaves their socks and shoes on the floor and doesn't pick them up. You come home too tired to fix dinner. You end up in a fight about whose needs should come first. Eventually you only become more angry and defensive with each other, and the good feelings start to evaporate. In the silence between the arguments, distance grows. So one of you goes off to play on the computer or the phone, and the other one starts to lay down on the couch, and things are really not good. How can emotions, when they're already pretty high, how can the emotions help heal a relationship? That's something many of us weren't taught growing up. One of the most helpful relation experts of our time is Dr. Sue Johnson of Ottawa, Canada. She grew up with her parents working in a pub in England, and she slowly watched the love between her parents dissolve. And she watched much human behavior. She also watched community there, so she began to see both sides of things, how people comfort and help each other, and how arguing can dissolve a relationship. So as she grew up, she moved to Canada and began to study adult relationships, especially couples, and watched tape after tape of couples, and slowly realized that the deep message underneath fights is, are you there for me? Are you there for me? And that is the most painful question there is. When you're in doubt about whether your partner is there for you, it's excruciating. It's just really awful. We never lose that need for love. We never lose that need to feel safe with somebody, that they've got our backs, that they're there for us, both in the small things and when the chips are down. But even angry couples can move towards a feeling of love. What it takes is understanding the escalation between them is robbing them of their love, and beginning to reach for the tender emotions and slow it way, way down so they can reach for the more vulnerable parts of themselves and say something like, when you don't do the dishes and I'm thinking you're going to do them, I feel disappointed, but I also think or feel you're really not there for me, and that's scary. That's such a different message than, you never do the dishes, you're a louse, right? To say instead, when you don't do the dishes and you've agreed to, I feel let down and I feel like you're not there for me. So in thinking about emotions, the ones that we notice first, of course, are the ones on the surface, and they're kind of protective emotions. They're ones of frustration or anger or blame, and they're not attractive. They're not ones that pull anybody towards each other. When your partner's angry, do you move towards them to give them a hug? Probably not. It doesn't feel safe, does it? So the emotions that we need to focus on to heal our relationships are the tender ones. The ones of regard, of kindness, of loving each other. And it's hard to summon those up if a bad cycle has gotten going. So those cycles, unfortunately, just seem to be part of human nature. That when one person reaches, and especially if they reach a little harshly or a little angrily, the other person might feel overwhelmed by it, or pushed around, or bossed, or controlled, and they don't respond kindly. The one who's reaching doesn't get what he or she needs. How do you figure out what's happening? And how do you reach for each other in ways that increase the sense of safety and connection? The feeling that you're really there for each other, that everybody longs for. So a memory cue for that is ARE. A stands for attentive, and R for responsive, and E for engaged. So let's think about that for a minute. When you're talking with your best friend, and they're attentive to you and looking you in the eye, and they care about what happens, and they feel, you can feel their emotions are touched, they're engaged, how good that feels. Well, that's what couples need too. That's what parents give their kids when things are going well, and that's what couples give each other when things are going well. And when you reach for your partner in a vulnerable way, or even in a disguised vulnerable way, and I'll talk about that in a minute, and you don't get back what you need, little hurts accumulate, or big hurts depending on the situation. So let's say that somebody in the couple has got a big meeting coming up, and they say in the morning to their partner, do I look okay in this suit? And the answer isn't really about, does that suit and tie work? or the shoulders right. It's about the anxiety of the meeting and then reaching for your partner and saying, "Are you there for me?" So it's a disguised question in a way, isn't it? It's a symbolic one of, tell me how I look, but really it's how do I look in your eyes? Or it's both, right? It's make sure I don't have dander on my shoulders, and do you love me no matter what? So when we end up in a bad cycle where there's defensiveness and anger growing, when we're upset and our pulse starts to go up, then the frontal lobes start to click off and we're in the emotional parts of the brain. And those emotional parts are going to be working with fear more than love. That's why we've got to slow things down enough to get to the tender feelings in our heart and to say, this is not my enemy. This is the person I love. This is the person whose well-being matters to me as much as my own. And from that place, then we can begin to reach with tenderness for each other. We might begin to hear the coded message of, how do I look in this suit, to, you'll be fine at the meeting, honey, and I'll want to know about it when you get home. So when a love relationship falls into conflict, it follows a familiar pattern that therapists are skilled at help seeing. And it can feel to the couple like they have fallen into a deep pit and that there is no way out. They've been climbing on top of each other, trying to get out, and they can't get out. What the therapist can offer is a path up out of that pit into closeness and helping each other by providing safety in the room and understanding for each partner when they can't do it for each other yet, and making the partner understandable. Because when you have a face of fury coming at you or a cold stone face, you don't understand what's happening in your partner, and what you feel is panic, and you don't have your whole self to respond to your partner. So when you can slow everything down, calm yourself down, and slow the process down, then you can have your whole being, your thinking brain and your feeling brain, your heart, there for your partner and for yourself. So then when you go to talk about the dishes, you can say to your partner, it's not about the dishes, it's not about the socks on the floor, it's about my feeling disregarded or feeling like you're not there for me, and it's really scary. That's a very different message than, you stinker, you didn't do the dishes. And because the therapist understands the map of what happens between couples, they can help the couple see what's happening between them. And it takes the blame and the shame out of it, and it becomes safe in the room to reach for the more tender emotions. And your partner becomes increasingly understandable to you. So here at Mountford and Family Therapy, we take a systemic approach to relationships, meaning we look at the whole, but that doesn't mean everybody has to come in. So if a couple is willing to come in, or one partner is and the other one's dragged in, we can work with you. If you can't get your partner to come in and you've got concerns about your relationship, you can come in and work individually too, and we can help you begin to impact what's happening at home by yourself. And we love to work with couples. That's our specialty. I'm Chris Rosenthal at Mountford and Family Therapy, and I appreciate your listening to me today.